We are doing a post NFL draft tier list. We got Matt with us, and thank y'all for tuning in. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Comment, like, give us all the goods, and get mad at us because I know that you will. So let's get started. Let's jump in on this. I got the Cardinals. We talked about this on our last pre-draft, and we both put the Cardinals at the lowest tier. This team, Caleb Williams. I don't necessarily think that they're gonna go for Caleb Williams, but I think they're gonna be the worst team in the NFL. They kind of stated that when they traded out their pick. They gave their pick to the Texans. Will Anderson traded into next year. They should have two really good picks next year, and Kyler's out. He's injured, and I just don't see them making any sort of run this year. So I have them, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, they had a good draft and just set themselves up well for some good picks this year, but mainly for next year. Falcons, I'm gonna put C tier. Obviously, I don't understand why they went Bijan. Love Bijan, generational talent, incredible. So, like in that regards, it makes sense. But they just had 1,000-yard rookie running back. So why would you? Why would you do that? Why is that your pick? And so I think there's still just a lot of question marks. I don't know as a team. Like Bijan might get his. They have a pretty good O line, I think, but as a team and like record wise, I don't really see them improving that much from last year to this year.
Yeah, they won 7-10 last year. I think they can get up to maybe 8 or 9, depending on how they do. But I think C is probably fair for them. I think they're going to be a really fun offense with Kyle Pitts, London, Bijan, even at Algier in there. But it's really up to Ritter, how Ritter performs.
That's the big thing. It's like they're either top of C, bottom of B. They could prove us wrong. Like,
Yeah.
and at the end of the season, I look like an idiot for putting them at C. But as it stands now, they have an unproven
Yeah,
quarterback.
and they're in an easy division too, which is what we talked about before this. We wanted divisions to be out of the tier list. So I have the Ravens. I really like the improvements that they made. Sign Lamar, get him signed. If he stays healthy, he's obviously a elite quarterback. They got OBJ. They went and got why am I blanking on his name? Receiver from this is gonna piss me off.
I'm letting you struggle.
Do you know who it is?
I'll be honest, I wasn't paying attention to you.
Zay Flowers. They picked up Zay Flowers, who's going to be great in the slot. He's super quick, shifty guy. Put him, OBJ, Bateman out there. Mark Andrews, like their offense looks a lot better. Great coaching, obviously. I think they're an A tier team. So I'm going to put them right there.
Yeah. All right, Bills. I'm gonna put Super Bowlers. Honestly, like at the end of the day, my opinion is they're at the lowest of the Super Bowl contenders right now. I just, especially after last year, how hot everybody was on them, and we've talked about this multiple times on the podcast, like how hot just the media and other people were on the Bills coming into the season, the public. Just didn't make sense. And you sent a thing that they're favored against the Jets,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah,
New Jersey.
we're recording this right before or right after the draft kind of got released, or at least the first game. And yeah, the Jets are underdogs at home to the Bills by 3 points, and it's just the media is obsessed with.
So it's just one of those things. It's like to me, they've kind of missed their window. They're still in it technically, but this isn't the best shot they've ever had. That was like 2 years ago, and so they're still Super Bowl contenders. They're still a great team, but it won't be long before they're out of this Super Bowl contender spot.
Yeah. So I got the Panthers. I'm a huge Bryce Young fan. I think they have a good defense. I'm going to put them right below the Falcons. I could see them being higher. I think both of those teams are almost identical level. And so we just don't really know who's going to be better. But I do like their defense. I love Bryce Young. I'm not too hot on Miles Sanders. I think he just thrived in the Eagles offense. And then their receiving core, obviously they got rid of DJ Moore. I mean, if Thielen and Chark are your like best receivers, I don't know how it's going to pan out. But I think they're going to be like a 500 team. So
Yeah. Bears, I'm gonna put it C behind the Falcons.
okay,
I like where they're headed. Like I think they're doing a lot of good things. Obviously, Justin Fields is looking good, but there's still like they just went from like
the worst team in the NFL.
worst
Yeah,
team, right, to all of a sudden I'm supposed to put them in B tier. Like that's you gotta work your way up. They're
yeah,
going in the right direction. They're just a year or two away still from being a playoff contender, I think. I mean, as far as like team value wise.
hmm
Maybe
um,
division they look good, but
yeah. I got the Bengals. I actually heard a podcast about the Bears, and he said I could see the Bears being anywhere from 13 to 31 like this year.
yeah.
Which I was
Yeah.
like, that's a good way to put it. Like they could sneaky dark horse be great, or they're still going to just be as bad as they were last year. So I got
Mhm.
the Bengals. It's pretty easy to me. They are over the Bills. They beat the Bills in the playoffs last year. They don't have many holes. I think Joe Burrow's better than Josh Allen, and yeah, I mean they're going to be right up there in contention again for the Super Bowl. So
Yeah. Browns, B tier. I think Deshaun Watson should look a lot better um, coming into this next season now that he's had time to play and just get accustomed to things, team bonding as well. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I think it's just as simple as that. Deshaun Watson should look a lot better, so this team should look a lot better.
yeah. So we're both Cowboys fans. I just want to specify this before I rank this team. Um, I think we made improvements with the receiver. We Gallup should not be your wide receiver two. We needed so much help at receiver. We got Brandon Cooks, which is huge, and then on the defensive side, we got Stephon Gilmore. We had problems with our DBs, and now Stephon Gilmore, a tier corner, is going to be paired up with Trayvon Diggs. We kept our defensive coordinator. I think we're better than we were last year. We lost to the 49ers barely by like 3 points. I think we're Super Bowl contenders. I honestly think we're better than the Bills. So I'm going to put
Yeah.
them right behind the Bills. We're going to get hate for it, but all around our roster, we don't really have any holes. Like our safeties are great. Our linebackers are great. Our D line is pretty stout outside of maybe D tackle. Offensive line is probably middle of the pack. And then it's really just up to Dak at this point. Like if Dak can be a top 10 quarterback, then, why not? Why can't we be a Super Bowl contender? So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think people obviously they love to hit the Cowboys, but I think we had a good draft and it just got overshadowed by the fact that the Eagles had a great draft.
yeah.
Like we didn't do anything special, but I think we got better. It's just the Eagles
Yeah, and I
outshined
mean,
us in
if
that.
if you look at Vegas, they have us as top six when it comes
Yeah.
to Super Bowl odds, and it's just because our like I said, our roster's really great, and people are gonna shit us. I think people are only gonna trash us saying that we're Super Bowl contenders because we haven't been to the Super Bowl in
Yeah,
20 years
for
or
sure.
whatever, or 25, whatever. So that's really the only reason. But at the end of the day, if you take all of that away, I mean, like just because the Bengals are amazing this year, I don't know. It's like they haven't been
Yeah.
to a Super Bowl before. Why does that help for them? So they just like to make fun
Yeah.
of us. But at the end of the day, like we have to be somewhat logical here. So
Yeah. Broncos, I'm gonna put B below the Browns.
okay,
Um as I'm looking at this, there's things like I don't know. I feel like they're on par with the Falcons. I just think they have a little bit more of a like clear direction as far as quarterback and just everything else. I think I think B is perfect, right? Like they're just kind of mid. They're good, they can be good, but they also underperformed last year. And so will we see that inconsistency again? Who knows? But um yeah.
so while you were talking, I'm kind of struggling with the Lions. I want to think that they're going to be great this year. But I just feel like all these people are really hyping them up. Obviously, they had kind of a good stint near the end of the season, but they started 1-6 or like 1-5. Their O line is top five. They have great receivers. You know, they picked up Gibbs. I'll give them A. I think they're deserving of A. I was thinking about putting them at the top of the B. I just worry about teams that get a little overhyped. They don't tend to live up to those expectations. But at the end of the day, like their roster is actually pretty good, and you know they made improvements everywhere, and so I think they're A worthy.
Yeah. Packers. I'm gonna go C, and either behind the Falcons or behind the Bears. What would you put?
Um, Probably behind the Bears.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think
It,
at least Vegas would say that as well. So
what's hard is I feel like just Jordan Love's so unproven. And so I think that's kind of the deciding factor here why I wasn't sure is like I think Green Bay has a good team, like a decent team, but you have a quarterback that's never played. At least the Bears have Justin Fields,
mhm.
and we know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And he can make the players around him better. We just don't know. Obviously, we've been hearing good things about him, about Jordan Love, but until he can step onto the field into that starting position, go through a season and prove it, there's just too much uncertainty to really be that hot on the Packers this year.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm actually a pretty big Jordan Love stan, and I think they're going to do better than a lot of people think. But it's kind of like you said, there's question marks. You can't. Same reason you put the Falcons in the C. You just the quarterback definitely makes a little bit of a difference. I have the Texans. I'm going to put them in the back of C. I think they're going to be competitive in games, but they're just still bad to me. Will Anderson was a great pickup. CJ Stroud, obviously great pickup. I like their running game. Their offensive line is good. Their receivers to me are just completely garbage.
Mm-hmm.
They might have one of the worst receiving corps in the NFL. John Mechie, Nico, Tank Dell, I do like, but he's undersized. Schultz, we have our opinions on him. It's just mediocre. I'm worried that they're not really going to be able to move the ball very well, but I think they are going to be competitive on defense. I like Petrie a lot. They got Ward, and then they got the Stingley from corner from last year, and so they're in that rebuilding process. But they're C tier. So
Yeah. I'm gonna put Colts right above them, right
okay.
above the Texans. I just trust the Colts organization way more than the Texans organization. And so, I wouldn't say they reached at quarterback, but it's just one of those where it's high upside, and probably like high ceiling, low floor, maybe this year for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I think overall they have a pretty decent team around them. But I'm not going to be super. I don't think we'll be super impressed by the team as a whole, but I trust them more than the Texans.
Mm-hmm. I have the Jags. They're another kind of team like similar to the Lions, to where you think that they're going to be good again, but you just never know. They haven't had the history. I'm going to put them over the Lions. I think they are A tier worthy. I mean, they did win, a playoff game last year, but let's remember they were down by like 24 points. So they have good weapons. They have good defense. They can be competitive. I can't put them in that Super Bowl tier. They're kind of mid A tier team to me. I think that's worthy position.
Yeah. I'm interested with like all the people that are putting Trevor Lawrence so low in their quarterback tier lists.
Did you see the one that I posted yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird to me. I don't know.
So the
Um,
thought process with Trevor Lawrence is that he's always, and I have him in that around top 10 area already. The problem with him, I think, and my friend said it pretty well, is that he's very risky with the football. He just doesn't
mhm.
care. And so, I mean, in that game against the Chargers, I think he ended up throwing like 4 interceptions. And I think
Yeah.
he gets compared with Dak sometimes, or we like to because we're Cowboys fans. And like no one batted an eye that Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in that playoff game. But if Dak threw two, it's freaking all hell breaks loose, and he's the worst
Yeah.
quarterback ever. So it's just he's just a very fan favorite, I feel. But
Yeah. Chiefs top of Super Bowlers. Obviously they're champions, right?
mhm.
So as far as long as they have Mahomes and Kelsey and like, dude, they're just it doesn't matter how, you lose Tyreek Hill and you still win a Super Bowl. Like that's how good this team is.
Yeah, we don't even have to really talk about them. I have the Chargers, dude. I want this team to be so good, so bad because it seems so fun, but like they're just not good. I don't know. I'm putting them behind the Broncos. They just piss me off so much. Like Justin Herbert, I think he's a top 5 quarterback, honestly. Brandon Staley, this is his last year in my opinion. Kellen Moore, I actually do like because he he wanted to do so much with the Cowboys, but now he actually has a quarterback that can do that. I feel like really let it loose. I thought the Quentin Johnston draft was strange to me because he just gives me like Mike Williams vibes. I wanted them to get more of a shifty guy. We talked about Flowers earlier on the Ravens. I thought that would be a way better pair. Eckler, even the Eckler thing is weird to me because how did they not see the value in him? He was their entire offense. And
Hmm.
so I think if I see them play the Broncos, I just think the Broncos, with the way they play defense, and if Russell Wilson, and the Broncos are very similar to Browns, right? They just play very good defense. I just trust that more than like the mystery of the Chargers. So I think they're just like a mid team to me.
Yeah. Um, so I got Rams. Dude, I don't know what to do with the Rams because I feel like they should be better than they are. Like, I don't know if you get that feeling.
Oh man, I think they're really bad.
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm trying to figure out like behind.
If you look at their roster top to bottom, it's Stafford, Aaron Donald, and Cup, and just garbage. But then
Yeah,
the other thing that you have to think about too is they were weirdly in games last year, and maybe because like McVay is deserving of that respect, but I don't know. They're a very tough team. They could be anywhere from Caleb Williams to B for me. So
yeah. I mean, I have them like probably above the Panthers.
okay.
Um, basically that's kind of where I was putting them is either above or below Panthers. I just I think they have some players with experience enough to win some games to keep them competitive. When you have Matthew Stafford, like you said, you have players like Cup. Cam Akers is like hit or miss on games. Like he's still young. Um
He
and
did.
I
He
just don't.
Cam Akers did really good at the end of the season. I think it should be his backfield. The last 3 games, he had over 100 yards in every game.
Yeah.
But even still, it's just their O line. Right when they lost their left tackle Whitworth, they just
Yeah.
really started being bad. Like
They did get
they're in
Avila, so
they're
that
in
should
yeah,
be
yeah, true.
good,
They're
but
in kind of like a rebuild because they traded for Stafford, but at the same time they have Stafford who it just it seems
they're in
like
such a
they just need to break it up to me,
yeah.
but they're not. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
I,
They could be a team to where like at the trade deadline they might start making moves. They might say, "Hey, Cup, you're 30 years old. You need
yeah.
to go play for this team," or Donald, you go here. I don't know. So,
They're in a weird spot because they obviously went all in to get the Super Bowl, and then now we're just kind of in shambles because of it. It's like
right.
great, you got your Super Bowl, but there was no longevity with that.
Hmm.
And now, like you said, they're in an awkward spot because they have
And there would be another team like that later on that will
yeah,
be in the Caleb Williams tier. So,
yeah. So,
but
anyways, we'll
yeah,
put the Rams there.
I got the Raiders. This is a tough team to talk about. I just don't trust them at all. I really think they're not very good. I'm I'm gonna put them in front of the Colts. I don't like Jimmy G at all. Did they even draft a quarterback in the draft? I don't think they ended up
I don't
doing
think
that.
so.
I just Jimmy G to me just does not have a high ceiling at whatsoever, and I just don't know how that offense is going to look. And their defense even struggled last year. Obviously Crosby's good, and then they picked up the guy from Texas Tech, defensive end, but
Hmm.
I think they're a C tier team. And then we don't want to talk about division here, but I don't see them. I see them being the worst in the division. So I feel like I can comfortably put them in the C tier here.
Yeah. Um, Dolphins, I'm putting A tier, maybe above the Lions.
Okay.
I think they're just more like they have
Jalen
players that should
Ramsey.
show out.
Yeah.
Um, they're fast and they just keep getting faster. And so I think there's a lot of upside from this team. Tua with his concussions, like we'll see if that continues to be a problem, in his career. Hopefully not for his sake, but I think there's a lot of upside. There's a lot of things to like about this team, and I think if it wasn't for their quarterbacks, like their quarterback situation, they would have done a lot better in the
Hmm.
season. So
Yeah. I have the Vikings. So 2 years ago, they were a team that lost a lot of close games. And then last year, they're a team that won a lot of close games. And so this year, I think they're going to level out. I think they're a fringe playoff team. They're going to be competitive. I think that whole division is just kind of up in the air. Like, obviously, a lot of people are going to have the Lions at the top, but even still, I think all those teams are just going to be like 3-3 against each other. They're all going to win and lose, and it's just going to be a mess. So I think they're a B tier team. There are even rumors that they wanted to trade up for Bryce Young. I don't know if they trust Kirk Cousins. I don't think he really was the problem at the end of the day. Their defense is also really, really bad. One of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. I don't even think they improved it at all. I'll put them. I think I'm going to put them here. I think they kind of remind me of the Chargers a little bit.
yeah,
I just like the upside a little bit more with the Chargers. So I think they're a team. The only reason to me they even made the playoffs last year is because, like I said, they won a lot of close games. They're in a division that didn't pan out very well, and then they lost. So
yeah. Patriots, I'm gonna put maybe top of C.
okay,
I just think they're in a weird spot too. Like I know Miles is a fan of Mac Jones. I'm not. Like I was initially. I just haven't seen enough from this team to really. I don't feel good about anything this team has right now. Like they have a bunch of players that could have been good.
Juju.
Maybe at some point they still could be good. Yeah. Um, it's just I don't know. It's just kind of a weird team. Like I just don't feel confident about where the Patriots are as a team.
Hmm. They're obviously going to play ground and pound, good defense, stuff like that, but they don't they don't really have a lot of upside. That's another team that we could get a little biased with the division. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be competitive with the Jets or the Bills or the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
So they should be the worst team in that division. Um, I got the Saints. Good defense, great defense. Derek Carr, I think he's top 12 quarterback, top 13. Um, I think they're a B tier team. They're going to be one of those teams that's probably pretty scary, but at the end of the day, I could see them flopping this year also. So I think B's fair at that point. Let's see. I guess I'll put them here for now. Yeah, they're just B tier, mediocre to me. Good defense, decent quarterback, competitive, but I don't know
Yeah,
the upside.
that's how I feel about the Giants, but I'll put them below the Saints.
Okay.
Um, I think they'll be better than they were last year. Like I think they've made some improvements. I like Daniel Jones. I just don't know that Daniel Jones can really get it done. Like, I think he's an incredible competitor. I think he's better with his feet than people give him credit for, like extending plays and getting outside the pocket, stuff like that. Um, I think he played fairly well against the Cowboys in terms of those types of things, which we know is against a very good defense. And so there's some things I really like about Daniel Jones, but there's still that, like, it's Daniel Jones.
Hmm.
Like, he doesn't excite you. He doesn't seem like a guy that can take you to a Super Bowl. Um, Saquon's just continually getting older, but he's also still really, really, really good. It's just each year that passes, I'm just like, you're wasting his career. You're wasting
Yeah.
his career.
And
Um,
they did pick up Evan Ingram, which should be good for them too.
yeah.
But yeah, they're,
Last year I would have put them C tier, like without hesitation. So I think they've
so
improved.
they did beat the Vikings. Are you being low on them because of that?
Um,
Like, do you think it's fair to put them over the Vikings since they beat them and probably got better?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't hate that argument,
Yeah.
obviously.
Because
Like,
I'm with
that's
me and you are pretty the same when it comes to the Giants. Like, and obviously we're Cowboys fans. Cowboys are 11-1 against the Giants in the past 12 games. So we're kind of going to be, anti Giants for the most part. But I think I would probably put them over the Vikings. But I that's fine. I mean, I think they're a B tier team. So I think that's
yeah.
fair at the end of the day. So I got the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, tremendous upgrade. I think they're going to start the season slow. I think but at the same time, I did see the line come out with the Bills, and I'm like, why are they underdogs? It's a home game, week one, divisional game, great defense, not great defense, like elite defense. Add in a quarterback. I think it might take a little bit, but at the end of the season, we could be talking about this team as a Super Bowl contender if everything pans out. It also seems as if Rodgers has kind of got that juice back a little bit. Like, I agreed with getting rid of him when it came down to the Packers with Jordan Love because it just didn't seem like he was feeling it anymore. Like he wasn't
Hmm.
at preseason or whatever with his receivers, and it seemed like he needed a new job basically. And so I'm gonna put the Jets above the Ravens. Like I said, elite defense. I love that when it comes to football. Add in a veteran quarterback with a bunch of history and everything. It just I they could definitely enter that Super Bowl contender. So
Yeah. Eagles, obvious Super Bowl contenders. I'd put them between Bengals and Chiefs.
okay,
Um, they are obviously a very good team and they got better. So there's really not much else to say. They had perfect, like, as good as their draft was, I hate it because it was like these players just fell to them.
hmm,
They didn't do anything
yeah.
other than just have these players fall to them. I guess they traded from 10
I
to
think
9.
I think I
But
saw a tweet. It was like the Lions were the team that did too much. They were like overkill, and the Eagles were the team that they weren't trying to big brain or anything. They just said, "Wait, y'all are just gonna leave this guy there," and then just took him.
yeah, it was like when CD fell to the Cowboys. It was just like,
Right.
okay, yeah, we're gonna obviously take this guy.
Right, you're like Justin Jefferson with the Vikings, and obviously
Yeah,
Jalen Rager was on the Eagles at that point. But you're like, yep, I'm just gonna get that guy. They're like
yeah,
they always are gonna pick best available. They just see talent and they're gonna say we don't care what kind of baggage he has. We're gonna figure it out and take him. So yeah, the
which they
Eagles.
obviously, like, because their team's so good, they're in a position to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So
The only bad thing I could see about the Eagles is obviously their O line is aging a bit, and they lost both of their coordinators. So
mhm.
the roster is there,
Yeah,
but can they keep the Eagle way? I guess
right.
flowing. So yeah, I mean, but I would have put them in the same spot. I have the Steelers. It's funny because I've done these tier lists a few times and I just always put them right next to the Patriots because they kind of play football the same way, like ground and pound, run the football. Pickett and Mac Jones are probably kind of comparable to for the most part. Coaches, Tomlin, Belichick, are both elite coaches, but they just don't have the roster to really move the needle. Now that I'm talking about it, I think they might be worthy of B tier because I forgot their draft was insane. They got Darnell Washington, Joey Porter fell to them pretty late. So I'll put them in the B, back of B, I think. But I fondled putting them at the top of C. So
Yeah. Seahawks, I think you and I differ a little bit
I think a
on the
lot.
Seahawks. Like you're pretty high on them, right?
I would, if it were me, I would consider putting them at the top or the bottom of A.
Okay, so I'm thinking behind Broncos, or actually, sorry, ahead of Broncos.
Okay, I don't hate that
So
then.
it's not too far. That's why it's like I knew you would have them A.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced that Gino is going to continue to be what he was this last
that's fine.
season.
I think that's a normal take, I guess.
Yeah, but I think like Kenneth Walker should be coming back. They just, as sad as it makes me, just got Zach Charbonnet. So like their backfield should look really good. Their defense obviously should look really good. And so I think there is a lot of upside to this team. I'm just not sold on their quarterback play. But like they have everything else going for them and like a lot of other things going for them. Obviously, great coaching as well. And so you may not need necessarily Geno Smith to be that, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he does, right? I wouldn't be shocked if he has the exact same type of season. So I like the Seahawks. So I hope they do well. We'll see.
Yeah. Um, yeah, they draft really well. I think the Russell Wilson trade helped them a lot. I think I believe in Geno. I've listened to some to him on some podcasts and stuff, and I think I kind of want to delete the past of his career because I think he kind of just grew up at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and so that helps him a lot. And so I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be this crazy guy, but I think he can be a legitimate game manager, right? So I think
Yeah.
he's still in that like 15 area, like top 15 area. Um, I got the 49ers. It's a team that just haunts me. They're just so good. O line is, top 10. Trent Williams, the weapons are insane. The only question mark with them is their quarterback, right? I personally think Trey Lance is good, but if he's not, there's an issue because Purdy's hurt. But I think Sam Darnold, even if they have to play him, I don't. I think he can keep it afloat. Like, why could Sam Darnold not be Purdy, right? He played for a shit Jets team and a shit Panthers team. It's like I don't know how you can hate on him that much. So I'm going to put them obviously ahead of the Cowboys. I even thought about putting them over the Bengals, but just with the question marks, I think there is fine. So, and then
Yeah.
I don't even know if I talked about their defense, but their defense is number one in the league.
Yeah.
So,
It's like it almost doesn't even need to be said.
yeah.
All right, Bucks. They are gonna go just right ahead. I know it's surprising that they'll be ahead of any team, but ahead of the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Um, this team's just bad. They have like I don't think they have any sort of direction. No good quarterback options. They're just bad.
Did you see that Kyle Trask is like competing at training camp with Baker Mayfield? I I I I think Caleb Williams actually might land on the Bucks.
Yes.
I think he
Yeah.
might land on like the Bucks or the Rams even if they completely just crumble. So I think that would actually be pretty fun if he landed on any of those or either of those teams because those are the only ones that you're like, I don't know what they're gonna do with their quarterback. So
Yeah.
yeah, that it's funny because on that video that we posted that actually did pretty well, it we were talking about the Bucks. So I got the Titans. Their receivers are bad. I could see Derrick Henry getting axed or like traded to another team by the deadline. Their defense is good. Vrabel's great. Tannehill is okay. I like the Levis pick where they got him because I think Tannehill. I've
Mhm.
compared Tannehill and Levis to each other. They remind me of each other a lot in the way they play football. The Titans to me was the perfect landing spot for Levis. It's just like hand the ball off under center. Like that's the way that Levis needs to play football. So there, maybe.
I
I
think
don't
I'm fine with
know.
that.
I mean, they're just weird to me. They don't have. I don't like the weapons that they have on offense. They're so one dimensional. I think Tannehill can keep it afloat. Maybe I'm dumb for putting him in C. Where would you put him?
I think I would have maybe put him in B,
Okay,
but it's
I think
not.
that's better. I'll put him right there.
Yeah, like I don't think it's crazy. I think they've clearly gone down as a team over the last couple years.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like they're in a soft rebuild, which again is why they got Levis where they did. It was like what a perfect spot for him to be at for them to get him.
Right. They're kind of like, do we need to rebuild or do we still have a team that is good? Because they have pieces, but then they
Mm-hmm.
also have missing pieces. So that's kind of the problem. It's like, are you really going to go in having a 1 year or like who's their number one receiver? The guy from Arkansas. He's their number one receiver.
Yeah.
Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
The fact that he is their starting number one receiver, they got rid of AJ Brown. Why? And then like Nick, whatever his name is, it's just it's just Derrick Henry. They are Derrick Henry and then defense. So yeah, I think back at B is fine just because Vrabel is such a great coach that he's gonna somehow have them in contention just as he did last year. They
Yeah.
almost beat the Jags in the last week with Dobbs as their starting quarterback. You know, it's
Yeah.
like that alone is just what's going on with that team. So
Yeah. Washington Commanders. Jamie, I love you. You're a dear friend. I'm gonna put them behind the Packers, between Packers and Rams.
I think that's probably where I would have put him too.
I,
Actually,
I just think every team below them is significantly worse. But I don't think they're in a great spot. There's so many question marks on this team. Obviously, Sam Howell like looked pretty good in the couple games that we got to see him, but that doesn't really mean much. Like now teams will have film on him. Um, they have some good weapons and some good pieces. I'm just not. I don't think they have a great. Obviously, they went all in on like secondary and offensive line, which is great, but like until those players can prove themselves, like where they have holes are really big spots. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is like they have some good pieces, but where they have holes are very, very, very important positions.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing that the way I think of the Commanders, which I don't know if this is fair or not, but they're one of the worst organizations. Like
Yeah.
their owner got axed. They, when they ranked all the teams, they were one of the lowest. The fans like don't even show up for the games. It's just they switched their logo back and forth. They might even now switch it again. It's just kind of how can they even be good? You have to be stable. And
Yeah.
even like the Cowboys, they're a team that they're always relevant, even though people hate it and they maybe choke at the end of the day. They're still always in contention in that playoff area, right? Like
Well, and they're a team like the Washington Commanders are a team that players I feel like don't want to play for.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. So it's like there's there
It's
that
all.
like
It's not a It's
motivation,
not a
that
free agent
morale.
destination. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna like Aaron Rodgers is gonna be like, I'm gonna go play for the Commanders. You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
issue. They're just not. They're in a bad market. It goes back to like basketball, like the Lakers, right? Oh yeah, everyone was gonna play for the Lakers. No one's gonna say, oh, I want to go to the Thunder. They're like the Thunder
Yeah.
of.
But even so, it was like San Antonio's small market. Players wanted to play for that organization because it was a very trusted front office.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Commanders do not have any trust in their front office, and
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
All right,
they
so
can't overcome it.
that is the end of the tier list. I guess I want to keep the video like somewhat shorter. We can go through it. I don't see any like glaring issues. Super Bowl, I think it's kind of fair to have those as the six. I'd probably consider putting the Bills in the A tier just because I kind of hate them, but I could be biased for
It's like
sure.
switching the Bills and the Jets.
No, I would probably just put the
Okay.
Bills in the top of A, but
Yeah.
we'll get too much flame for that, so this is probably fine. A tier, I think the only thing that I personally would do is probably put the Seahawks at the back, but I don't hate you putting
Yeah.
the Seahawks there. I mean, do you hate this at least?
No, I
Okay.
don't.
So we could do that just to kind of keep it how you had it. Anything in the B that you think should be A or C?
I personally would have the Titans, I think, above the Steelers, but I don't know. That may just be more of like,
I think that's a division thing.
yeah.
The way I see the
I
Steelers, I think they have a better defense. They
yeah,
have better receivers. I mean, Najee Harris is good. He obviously isn't Derrick
yeah,
Henry. And
yeah,
then the coaching is probably somewhat the same. So I just see the way I see the Titans is they're in a really weak AFC South. And if you place them in the AFC North, they're still going to be that bad. And the
yeah.
Steelers have to play against the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Browns. And those are just, that division is so competitive and brutal.
hmm
And that's why I have it that way. So,
Yeah, and I think like to that point too, we could move the Giants above the Vikings if you want.
okay.
Just kind of for that almost like that same purpose. It's like the Giants might not have the that great of a record, but they're playing against the Cowboys and Eagles twice a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think the thing about the Giants, and I like Dayball. I think the coaching is great. You know, we saw the decline in the Bills when he left, and then we saw him kind of boost up Daniel Jones, and
yeah,
so that's kind of how I view that situation.
yeah, he's a great coach.
Yeah, C tier. Um, I think I would, or I'll ask you first.
I'm fine. What would you?
I think I would put the Panthers over the Rams,
Yeah,
and
I
even
agree.
probably over the Commanders. I think I would
You
do
think?
that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I think their defense is top 10. And then I just have faith in Bryce Young. It's kind of like a Bryce Young thing. If they didn't have Bryce Young, I'd put them in like Caleb Williams. But,
Right.
last year, and once again, back to division, but we were talking about the Panthers winning the NFC South. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they could have won. So I think right there is fine. Otherwise, I'm pretty cool with everything. Uh, and then yeah, Caleb Williams here. So
Yep.
I think that's it. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this. Like me and you, for the most part, I feel see a lot of teams the same way. Any closing thoughts from your end, or
I think I like obviously the Super Bowl contenders have kind of been those same few the last 2 years going into its third year. But what I think is exciting is these teams coming up, the Jets now in the A tier, um, Jaguars, Dolphins, Lions coming up into the A tier. Like I'm really excited about these teams that are continuing to get better to see obviously like that's gonna change. Like some point these aren't gonna be the same six teams as Super Bowl contenders. So I'm excited to see who takes that like extra next step to get into that Super Bowl contender tier.
I think that's what I always try to tell people too when they start getting excited about teams and low on teams is that this to me seems like one of the more competitive seasons. A lot we look at a lot of these teams and they have pretty decent quarterbacks. I mean, Anthony Richardson's going to come in here. He's going to start. They like you said, they have high ceiling, right? Bryce Young, I think he can be a top 10 quarterback. That's a team that can be competitive. Jordan Love, if
Mm-hmm.
he ends up working out, they could be back to old Packers like to an extent. Maybe not Aaron Rodgers, but yeah, there obviously there's a. We talked about the Rams. They seem bad on paper, but McVay, Stafford, if they make it happen, they're back up there. So there's really only two teams to me that are gonna be very bad, and that's the bottom two and
Yeah.
anything else can change. So that's how I feel about that. All right, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate the love, and we will see y'all next time.